Ask 10 different people what Genesis 1 means, and, well, you're likely to get 10 entirely different answers. It's truly one of the most heavily scrutinized and debated texts in human history. So, to really understand it in this explainer, we have to put aside the theological debates, the historical arguments, and all those outside assumptions we naturally bring to it. We need to look directly at the source material itself.
And that brings us to our core mission. We're going to follow the text progression exactly as it was laid out by the original author, moving continuously from the very beginning to the end. As we step through this account, we're going to maintain strict discipline. At every single marker, we'll be asking one fundamental question. What does the text actually say? We'll follow the chapter's own inherent order, tracing the narrative all the way through the first 3 verses of chapter 2, which is where the creation week reaches its completion. And as we do this, we have to draw a clear, definitive line to separate two things that honestly just blur together in our minds: what Genesis 1 states directly as literal text versus what we as readers conclude or interpret from it. By the end of this journey, you're going to know exactly where the ancient text itself stops speaking and where human interpretation begins.
Section: The beginning. The ancient account opens with a profoundly definitive statement, a bold declaration of origin, God creating the heavens and the earth. Right at this absolute starting point, the Earth's initial conditions are explicitly defined. The text reveals that it's formless and it's empty. Darkness covers the deep, and the Spirit of God hovers over the waters. Think about that. Unformed, unfilled, and totally dark. It's absolutely crucial to recognize that everything that follows in this ancient account is a direct, deliberate movement away from this initial condition.
Moving into days 1 through 3. Forming the world. This is a phase dedicated entirely to shaping that unformed reality. God is about to speak, and with literally every word, the world will take shape.
A really clear chronological progression emerges over these first 3 days. Day 1 introduces the presence of light. Day 2 forms the vast expanse right in the midst of the waters. And then Day 3 brings forth dry land and flourishing vegetation. Now, to fully grasp this sequential forming, we need to look closely at the exact wording utilized at each historical marker.
On the very first day, the text tells us that God speaks, and light appears. But this light isn't just left to mingle with the void, it's explicitly separated from the darkness. Following this separation, day and night are actually given their names. This separation and naming stands as the first definitive act in the entire sequence.
And this first day establishes a massive architectural rhythm for the whole chapter. We're introduced to a crucial, repeating pattern. God speaks, something happens, and God evaluates what has been made. This exact rhythmic pacing is basically the narrative engine that carries the rest of the account forward.
Moving on to the second day, the text describes God's specific action of separating the waters by forming what the text explicitly calls an expanse. A massive physical division is created. This expanse separates the waters that are above from the waters that are below.
Then we hit the third day. The waters below are gathered together into one place, and dry land appears. And just as day and night were named on the first day, land and sea are named right here. But day 3 doesn't stop there. The text states that the land then produces vegetation, specifically plants and trees, with each distinctly yielding seed and fruit according to its kind. And once again, that established pattern builds and solidifies. God speaks. It happens. God sees that it's good. The text completely relies on this exact, deliberate sequence, utilized day after day, to structure the narrative. It's this precise rhythm that carries the entire creation account steadily forward. When we map these first 3 days chronologically, a fascinating structure emerges. Day 1 brings light and darkness. Day 2 brings the sky and the waters. Day 3 establishes the dry land and the sea. Together, they form 3 great spaces. Now, we've got to be careful here. We must note that this framework is a reader's way of organizing the observations. This is our method of conceptualizing the text, not the explicit language the ancient chapter itself uses.
Because of this, readers and scholars often summarize this broader movement as bringing order out of an unformed beginning. And it's a highly logical conclusion when you view the progression from a dark, formless void to the structured, bounded spaces of light, sky, and land. Yet, keeping our core mission strictly in mind, we have to remember this is a descriptive definition we assign to the process. It's a valid interpretation for sure, but it is not a phrase the text uses to describe itself.
By the end of day 3, the major spaces of the world have been definitively formed. Now the account turns to filling them.
So picking right back up in the Genesis 1 account, the earth was initially formless and empty. And while the first 3 days were all about forming and shaping those empty spaces, the narrative now pivots immediately to filling them. We're diving straight into days 4 through 7.
Section 1. Filling the world. Days 4 through 6.
These 3 days represent an incredibly fast-paced cascade of events, focused entirely on populating the domains that were just shaped. Basically, the spaces carved out in the first half of the sequence are now being rapidly filled with inhabitants.
On the 4th day, the language gets highly specific. We see a greater light and a lesser light appointed to govern the day and the night. But they aren't just there for illumination. They're actually there to mark the seasons, the days, and the years. They serve as the cosmic timekeepers for this newly ordered creation.
Once the sky is filled with those lights, the waters and the air below are populated next. So on the 5th day, we get the creatures of the water and the birds that fly. And right here, a really vital moment happens. God blesses them to be fruitful and multiply. It's this powerful infusion of vitality, a direct command for life to expand and flourish.
Section 2. Day 6. Humankind and the image of God.
Up until this point, the rhythm of creation has been, well, pretty swift and relentless. But suddenly, the account just slows down. Right after the creation of land animals, the narrative pauses for the arrival of humanity. God made humankind in his own image, in his likeness, created male and female.
Now, the image of God is a status that is firmly, unambiguously bestowed upon humanity. Yet, and this is fascinating, the text brilliantly avoids defining exactly what that phrase means within the confines of this chapter. It grants humanity this profound dignity, uniquely setting us apart, but it deliberately leaves the precise mechanics of that image completely undefined. What is explicitly given to us, however, is a mandate. Echoing the blessing given to the sea creatures, humanity is told to be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. But there's a unique addition here: dominion over all those living creatures we just talked about. Humanity is appointed a very specific role of stewardship within this meticulously ordered system. Section 3. The plural us. A divine mystery. Right before humanity is formed, there's this mysterious divine declaration recorded in the text. Let us make man in our image. Notice that word us. It is distinctly and undeniably plural. So who exactly does us refer to? Readers and scholars have been debating this for literal millennia. But what's absolutely crucial to understand is that Genesis 1 comfortably raises this question without providing an answer in the passage itself. It isn't presented as some puzzle you're supposed to solve in the immediate text. It's simply left as a profound, lingering mystery.
Following the creation of humanity, we see a crucial shift in the language. Throughout the first 5 days, creation was repeatedly called good. But now, with humanity taking its place, the text gives its final evaluation of the completed system. The whole creation is now evaluated as very good, the ultimate stamp of divine approval.
Section 4. Completion and rest. Day 7.
On this 7th day, God completes his work. And in this ancient context, the number 7 represents ultimate completion. The text explicitly states that God blessed the 7th day and set it apart. It receives a special, elevated status simply by its existence in the timeline.
And what exactly defines this set-apart day? Rest. The sequence doesn't actually end with the creation of humanity. It reaches its true climax right here. The relentless pattern of God speaking and creation dynamically responding comes to a peaceful, intentional stop. So if the ultimate pinnacle of the cosmos isn't actually humanity's creation, but rather this divine rest, what does that reveal about the true purpose of the world we inhabit?
Ultimately, the core message of Genesis 1 is actually incredibly clear. What we have here is an authoritative account of God speaking and creation immediately responding. God is presented as the definitive creator. The heavens and the earth are formed through this really remarkable, almost rhythmic pattern. Over 6 days, we see light, the sky, land, and vegetation emerge, and that's followed by the luminaries in the sky, sea creatures, birds, land animals, and finally, humanity. Every single piece of it is explicitly described as God's making.
Now, within this sequence, humanity occupies a very distinct position. Formed in God's image and likeness, we are uniquely endowed with a divine blessing and a specific, God-given responsibility toward the rest of the created order.
And, the very structure of the text reinforces this grand design. Think about it. every single stage of forming and filling is individually called good. Then, upon completion, the absolute entirety of creation is deemed very good. And finally, the seventh day is explicitly blessed and set apart. That is definitively what the chapter states. Questions left unanswered. Because while those acts of creation are definitive, there are definitely specific ambiguities that the text intentionally leaves open for us. For instance, the text doesn't explicitly dictate exactly how the word day should be understood here. And that leaves a pretty profound question regarding the exact timeline, which is a mystery that careful readers have interpreted in a lot of different ways over the centuries. There are further mysteries woven right into the original language, too. The text doesn't actually identify who the us in "let us make man" refers to, nor does it give us some exhaustive dictionary definition of everything the phrase image of God fully encompasses. Alongside those internal mysteries, we as modern readers often bring our own questions to the passage. Specifically, we wonder how this ancient text relates to modern scientific descriptions of the universe's origins. But the thing is, the biblical text just doesn't set out to address modern scientific questions directly. Its original scope is entirely its own. So, reading this ancient text carefully really means recognizing where it speaks plainly and where it intentionally leaves room for interpretation. Validating our modern questions is absolutely important, but true understanding requires just letting the text be exactly what it actually is. Reading Genesis 1 on its own terms. To read Genesis 1 with true integrity requires a really delicate balance. We must not skip past the passages that are debated, but equally, we can't overstate the passages that are plain. The creation account reaches its completion and rest. So will we. If this study helped you understand Genesis 1 a bit more clearly, make sure to subscribe to Berhan Bible for more teaching like this. Share this explainer with someone who's seeking to understand Scripture more deeply. And tell us down in the comments what stood out to you the most. Keep reading the Word.